Do you like to use your stencils in different ways? If your answer is yes, stay tuned because I have two cards to share with you, each with an absolutely different look using the same stencil in two very different ways. Catch you in a few. Hi there everyone, in today's session of Creative Coloring with Erum, I will use the Playful Stripes Stencil and share a couple of cards. We will start by inking an A2 sized panel or a panel that is the size of your card front. For the inking, I will use Rubellite, Coral Berry and Coral Bliss Fresh Dye inks. There's no need to worry about blending these inks perfectly, just focus on covering the white panel with color. Start with Rubellite, which will cover the top part, and then move on to Coral Berry for the middle, overlapping a bit with Rubellite for a lovely blend. Finally, finish it off with Coral Bliss at the bottom, slightly overlapping with Coral Berry. Your inking can be splotchy, it won't matter in the end. Just ensure you overlap the inks when you move from one to the next, and that will take care of the blending on its own. And as you can see, my inking is super splotchy. It's somewhere it's dark, somewhere it's light. But as long as I have covered the panel, none of the white is showing, I'm good. After you've finished, feel free to let the panel rest for a few minutes. This will give you some time to decide if you'd like to add more ink, because this time will also allow the ink to dry and lighten slightly. I'm happy with my panel, so I will use my heat tool to dry it completely. Now make sure to dry the panel completely because we will be heat embossing. Next, I will do a dry test with the embossing powder. Add a bit of embossing powder just to see if it sticks. The panel appears to be dry. Like at this point, it appears to be dry. Now I will use an anti-static powder and apply it all over the panel. Set this aside for a minute. Then I will prep my stencil with the glue tape by Altenew, applying it to areas that I know will move. You can use a repositionable spray, but this works fine too. Next, I will place the stencil over the inked panel and carefully apply embossing ink. The stencil will stick to the ink pad, so be really careful when you are pulling the ink pad away. Make sure to hold the stencil in place. To ensure that the embossing ink is applied properly through the stencil, use a blending brush to go over the stencil. Now, this blending brush has to be dedicated to the embossing ink. Now, press and drag all the ink that's over the stencil onto the cardstock. Work from one corner to the next so you can keep track of the area you have already worked on. Don't do this randomly. Once this is done, I'll gently press the ink pad again to make sure the ink is nice and evenly applied, and I've not missed any of the areas. Now remove the stencil. Now cover with crystal clear embossing powder, and if there is any powder on places you don't want it to be, use a fine paintbrush to remove it. Make sure the paintbrush is dry. Use a heat tool to heat set the powder and let the panel cool down. Now take another A2 sized panel and use the same inks directly on the cardstock by swiping them across the panel a few times and covering the entire panel. Now this time I ink the panel diagonally. You can ink it in any way you want to. The reason I used the swiping method is because it was faster instead of using brushes, but if you want to use your brush to apply ink, you can do that as well. Because I don't have to heat emboss this panel, I wasn't worried about drying the panel or for it being wet. Now I will place the stencil with the leftover embossing ink still on, that side down, the ink side down on the panel, so that I can get the ink on the panel and dry emboss the stencil. I'm using Platinum 6 and look at how pretty the panel looks. Now I'll return to the first panel that I heat embossed. It's up to you to decide if you want to apply ink using a blending brush or swipe with the ink pad directly. I will do both. I'll swipe the ink pad and then using a blending brush to pick up excess ink from the embossed area and glide it off onto the cardstock. Once I've covered the cardstock with black ink, I will use a tissue or a kitchen towel, just slightly damp, to clean the clear embossed area. The slightly damp kitchen towel basically helps clean the area more quickly. I used Obsidian Pigment Ink. You can use any dark colored ink if you prefer some other color. After I completed the card, I thought I could have started with the blue-green panel instead of pink, and I could have ended up with a very nice masculine card. I trimmed both of the panels to the size I wanted. The emboss resist one is 1/2 inch smaller than A2, and the dry embossed one is 1/4 inch smaller. Next, I die cut Thank You out of jet black cardstock 3 times and once out of brushed gold metallic cardstock from the Timeless Sentiments die set. Adhered the layers together with the gold offset at the base. I also die cut the shadow layer out of white cardstock and inked it using the same inks as the card panel. I will adhere these together. I also die cut the leaves from the Craft Your Life project kit Bold and Beautiful in black and gold. I will tuck these behind my sentiment. I will use my finger to apply a bit of antique gold pigment ink to the black leaves so that they're not jet black. I will layer these over the gold ones. Next, I will use the gold marker from the Essential Permanent Marker set and add a border along the edge of the Emboss Resist panel. To finish, I added a few sequins, and the next day, I also added a bit of gold pigment to the card base. For my second card, I die cut the Craft Flower Prairie Roses in white. I only die cut the flower petals, leaves, and the stamens. I want the leaves to be really dark, so I chose to go with Raspberry Fresh dye ink, and I will cover the entire die cut with this ink. Once done, I will apply Coral Bliss Fresh dye ink to the tips of the leaves so that they match my panel. This will show once it starts to dry. Next, to add depth, I will use a detailed blending brush and apply a Berry Fresh dye ink to the base of the leaves and the branch. Most of the leaves won't even show, but those that will show will look great against the colorful background. And look at how gorgeous the die cut looks against the background on its own. I could just add a couple of these and pop a sentiment, and I think the card will look gorgeous. I think I'm going to try this with darker flowers, like flowers of the color that the leaves are. I think they're going to look beautiful. Moving on, I will start by adding Coral Berry and Coral Bliss Fresh dye inks with a very light hand to the flower petals. These will end up looking like really light pink flowers with a hint of coral. It is up to you how much of coral or pink hue you want to add. I noticed that blending the colors looked better instead of using just one ink, but you will have to check on your colored panel what looks good. For the flower center, I used Raspberry and Acai Berry Fresh dye inks. Once I'm done, I will adhere the leafy vine with liquid adhesive and the flowers with Instant Dimension foam tape. To layer the flowers, please follow the keyhole system and the layering guide on the packaging. To add a bit of dimension, I will pinch some of the petals. You don't necessarily have to do this, but I really like the look. Then I will add splatters of titanium white gouache and let it dry for a few seconds, followed by carbon black gouache. For the flower centers, I added coral pearl dots, and look at how gorgeous this looks. To finish, I popped a sentiment from the Elegant Sings stem set, and that's it. I hope you'll try at least one of the 2 stencil techniques I shared today. Don't forget to let me know in the comments which card you like best and what colors you'd try. And if you do give it a try, please tag me or Altenew so we can see your gorgeous creations. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time. Bye.
Wait, we have more where that came from. If you're after fabulous card making tutorials, you are definitely in the right spot. Our amazing design team create and upload fabulous video tutorials right to this YouTube channel. If you don't want to miss another amazing crafting tutorial, don't forget to subscribe and click that fun red button that you can see. Let's become paper crafting experts together.